Well, it's a very warm welcome and thank you for joining us on this independent off-tube studio commentary. It's the game at the Gtech Community Stadium, Brentford, taking on West Ham United, and our referee, Tom Bramwell, has just got the game underway. It's 10th against 9th, just 1 point between these two sides. West Ham a point ahead of Brentford. Both teams have had some good moments in the season, but they've also had some very poor results. Both teams, I suppose, could say they've had a very poor result at home to Everton this season. Brentford humbled about 5-6 weeks ago, but just as I say that, could have been an absolutely disastrous start for the home side as the ball was laid back to Mark Flecken and he slipped just as Mikael Antonio was about to stand over him. But fortunately, the Brentford keeper, while still on the ground, was able to roll that ball out to a teammate. Now Brentford are on the attack. I'll bring in my colleague in just a moment. But Brentford here down the right-hand side now with Mbeumo in towards Wissa, but his pass is cut out by Ogalbe, who then fires the ball down the left-hand side. And West Ham now trying to get on the counter-attack. Antonio may have been brought down there. He was brought down. This will be a free kick to the Hammers. So I will bring in Jack Ogalbe and myself, Paul Szczerbakowicz, taking you through the action. Jack, that could have been an absolute disaster for Brentford inside the first 20 seconds.
Yeah, well, from a neutral point of view, it's been great so far, hasn't it? It's been open, but wrong boots on there for the goalkeeper. He slipped round his 6-yard line, and Mikael Antonio had kind of followed the ball rather. He just couldn't quite anticipate, and the goalkeeper managed to rescue the situation. Nervy times for Flecken there. But I'm expecting a really good game. Brentford have got a great record against West Ham, and the Hammers have got some key suspensions, haven't they? Lucas Paquetá, Edson Alvarez, and Kurt Zuma's injured as well. But they seem to come good, don't they, when they do have the backs against the wall. You mentioned those poor results for Brentford and West Ham against Everton. However, Brentford have been really good in recent weeks. They've won the last 2 Premier League games, and you've got to say they're going to fancy themselves, but I think so are the Hammers.
Well, absolutely. I think that Brentford, they lost to Manchester United the 2 weeks ago, and they were very unlucky to do so. They were pegged back in injury time in that game, and they should have really beaten Forest away from them the week before. But West Ham with that free kick from around about the half-line on the ball drops at the edge of there. Kudus fires this across the 6-yard box. It's played away by Vitaly Janelt, who's the emergency left-back today with a couple of injuries for Brentford and a couple of suspensions as well. But it's going to be a throw on to West Ham down the right-hand side. And it's going to be a long throw here from Vladimir Coufal. I'll remind you of the 2-11 in just a moment, but Coufal's long ball into the box. It's a really good throw as well. It's headed out towards the edge of the area, and then Mbeumo trying to bring it out here for Brentford. He runs that into Coufal, and it's out for a throw to West Ham. Coufal doesn't waste any time. He plays it into Kudus, who treads on the ball, and in trying to win that back, I think he doesn't get the final touch. It is out for a goal kick. So it is Mark Flecken in goal for Brentford. A back four of Christopher Ayer, Nathan Collins, Ethan Pinnock, and Vitaly Janelt. The three in midfield of Frank Onyeka, Christian Norgard, and Matthias Jensen, with Brian Mbeumo, Johan Wissa, and Neal Maupay as the attacking three. For West Ham, it's Alphonse Areola in goal. A back four of Vladimir Coufal, Kostas Mavropanos, Naif Ogerd, and Emerson. Thomas Souček and James Ward-Prowse are the two holder midfielders, with Jarrod Bowen, Mohammed Kudus, and Said Benrahma as the attacking midfield three, playing behind Mikael Antonio. Brentford doing what they like to do, playing out from the back. But teams have learnt this now, and you see pretty much every opposition that Brentford have, they leave plenty of men up. Yeah,
but we were discussing, weren't we, off air about how it's almost a good season to be a team in transition and trying out new things, because the free promoted clubs have struggled so much. Brentford are almost, dare I say, an established Premier League club. I think they will be if they make it to a third season. But they also have those injuries. Aaron Hickey's suspended or injured, I can't quite remember. It was a bit of both, wasn't he? He was suspended at one point. Henry's injured. He's a big loss for them, isn't he? But Hickey's been excellent as well on the right-hand side. So about the main fullbacks, it can be difficult, and especially eventually teams do work it out, and that's the challenge of playing in the top flight. It's happened to West Ham. They found a new way of playing. You could suggest it's happening to them at the moment. Teams have kind of worked them out a bit, and that's Brentford's the next stage in their development, I suppose.
It absolutely is, and the sort of the willy won't he with Ivan Toney. Of course, he is now back training with Brentford, has been for the past 5 weeks. And he will be available for selection from mid-January, but there's plenty of pundits out there who think he may never play for Brentford again.
No, that is the case, but of course when you've got a player of that calibre, it's almost like when Tottenham couldn't sign another striker as a Harry Kane. He's always going to play, Tony, because he's so good, isn't he? So the season's almost on hold for a bit while they're waiting for him to come back because he can't find a replacement.
No, that's true, and I think that if he was to go in January, Brentford would certainly be expecting a fee, as Mbeumo gets clipped at the edge of the area. He was trying to flick the ball up, and in doing so he was caught. There's a West Ham player down as well. It's Emerson, perhaps trying to suggest to the referee that he actually might have been caught in that challenge, but I don't think Tom Brown was going to be moved. There's going to be a free kick to Brentford in any case.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I think that's the classic one where I think it was a foul by Emerson actually on Mbumu, but I was going to say it's the classic one where in our day, Paul, where it would have been Mbumu, even though he won the ball, would have been the guilty party, but it was the old way around, I suppose, where because Emerson kicked him, for me, rightfully so, it's a Brentford free kick.
Yeah, it is, and this will now be a good chance for Brentford. It's just at the edge of the area, over on the right-hand side as Brentford look. There are a couple of players standing over it. It's the right-footed option of Jensen and the left-footed option of Mbumo. There's a line of West Ham players playing the offside just at the edge of the 6-yard box. And there's a two-man wall as well, just in case Mbumo tries something clever at the near post. But Areola is stood closer to that near post just in case. See how Brentford want to play. There's a couple of players waiting at the edge of the area potentially for a tee-up for a shot as well. But it's Mbumo, and he's going for goal at the near post. But it was always a tough ask. Areola was stood at the near post, and he makes a standing save.
Yeah, it's always going to be something pretty amazing that's going to beat a goalkeeper from that angle. We know the Brentford Stars got that quality, but not on that occasion. Comfortable in the end. It must be frustrating for Thomas Frank, because I thought Jarrod Bowen was going to be in there. That you want to be testing the goalkeeper early on. It's almost a bit of a warm-up save, that one, for him, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. But you mentioned Jarrod Bowen. I mean, he wasn't far away from getting on the end of that. It was Areola who made the save, and then he punted a long ball downfield. And it was only a touch from Christopher Ayer at the very last moment that got that ball away from Jarrod Bowen. We were also saying off air that that's attacking midfield three for West Ham. There is a lot of pace, and there's a lot of threat in there as well. Bowen, Kudus and Ben Rama. Ben Rama, of course, very well known to the Brentford fans. He was part of the so-called BMW strike force when Brentford were making their way from the Championship into the Premier League. But here comes Christian Norgard now, brings the ball out for Brentford, out towards the right-hand side. Ayer finding Mbumo, and just ahead of him is a cross coming in from Onyeka. The West Ham players had their hands up for an offside. Onyeka's cross gets through to Areola, but he was offside in the end.
Yeah, he just went a bit early there, didn't he, Frank Onyeka? You mentioned that partnership. Neal Maupay, of course, leading the line for Brentford today. He's only, if you look for an omen, his only goal for Everton came against West Ham last season.
Yes, he did. I mean, that's a stat in itself, of course, that somebody who really did get a hatful of goals for Brentford, then moved to Brighton and seemed to be finding his feet there. Then sort of things improved and changed around Maupay, and he sort of got frozen out of the team. And went to Everton and has really struggled since then. Just speaking of Everton, we're getting word that potentially they are the first goal scorers of the afternoon. I'll tell you what, if they were to beat Brighton, that'd be a big result for Everton as they look to try and build their season. As Bowen tries to backheel that ball into Ben Rama. It was in midfield, but the ball has now been won back by Brentford. Only very briefly though. Emerson then has it back for West Ham. And Ben Rama on that left-hand side, hounded by two Brentford players, eventually does lose possession. And it's with Norgard now. Mbumo to Ayer, back towards Mbumo. He's got options here. Onyeka's supporting, but Mbumo's going himself into the box, gets all the way to the byline, tries to put a cross in, and Brentford want a corner kick. They're not going to get it though. The final touch comes off for Naif Oged, but the look from Mbumo suggests that he thought it was he thought it should have been a corner.
Yeah, he did. Spirited start from the Brentford man, but things aren't quite going his way. Naif Oged's a good defender. He waits, and might have been a double kiss. I'm not quite sure. I think the last touch does come off his right instep, maybe.
I think it probably is the right decision, and that was given as a goal kick. West Ham want to play out from the back, and Brentford have left Maupay and Wisser at the edge of the box, and maybe with Areola chooses to go long. He does. He sends a ball up towards the halfway line. It's headed on by Souček, but that's straight into Nathan Collins, whose pass. Does that hit the referee? Yes, it does. And that's going to be a drop ball for Brentford. Tom Bramwell couldn't quite get out of the way. Vitaly Mikalenko it was, by the way, the Ukrainian left-back for Everton. That's given them an early lead against Brighton. It's the only goal in the Premier League so far. We only had one goal in the earlier game today, where Manchester United left it very late to beat Fulham 1-0 away from home. Of course, you mentioned a few teams that will be happy about the newly promoted side struggling. We could certainly add Fulham to that list, can't we?
Yeah, well, they just lack a striker, it seems. They played quite well today, I thought. And the chances weren't quite there, but even so, you weren't sure if Rodrigo Muniz, who started today, was going to be able to take them. Both Carlos Vinicius and Raul Jimenez came on. Vinicius often been a backup striker, hasn't he? And Raul Jimenez, unfortunately, since that terrible injury picked up, it's not quite been the same, and understandably so.
No, he hasn't really been able to rediscover that form. He's still got all the technical skill, but it may just be just a psychological thing in terms of, as I say, it was such a serious injury.
And it's also been missing 6 months, 9 months worth of football as well, isn't it? It must take you out, especially when the wrong side of 30.
No, it's true, and it's those split-second decisions when you go in for a header, go in for a challenge. That's potentially the sharpness that he's missing. But Brentford pushing forward now down the left-hand side for the first time in this game. It's Janelt's ball into the box, easily dealt with by Ogalbe. Loose ball in midfield, and a bit of a lunge there from Norgard, but he does win the ball. Onyeka now down the channel here for Mbeumo. He just about gets to it, puts the ball into the 6-yard box. It drops, it's fired, it's saved by Areola just on the line, and then a second ball floated in by Janelt, drops into the penalty area, headed on, and it's into the back of the net. Well, Brentford had players waiting inside the 6-yard box, and it would be Neal Maupay of all the players. He loves a goal against West Ham, doesn't he? And it's Neal Maupay that gives Brentford the lead on 10 minutes.
Maupay on the score sheet for the Bees. Dreadful defending all around, though, for West Ham. The ball was put back in by Janelt. It was a poor one. It was going for a goal kick, and 3 West Ham defenders were fighting for it, unchallenged, and headed it back into the area. And there was Maupay at the back post, a pass on to him, and he bundled it home. A relief, I suppose, for him, relief for neutrals who've watched him try so hard and struggle. They had chances. Wissa's effort was blocked. Janelt plays it to the back. What a Souček and Ogalbe doing. He then hits it on Onyeka, kind of bundles it towards the goal. It's going wide, but there is Maupay, still got that striker's instinct to nod past Areola, who's kind of clutching at air.
Well, when that ball came in from Janelt, I almost sort of dropped my tone a little bit in my voice, because it seemed to me like it was a ball floated towards an area of the 6-yard box where there were only West Ham players. So between them, one of them says leave it or let it go or head it back to the keeper. But as you say, Souček just nods it up in the air, and it's there for the taking.
It's one of those as well that the analysts will be looking at it and they'll say, well, there's not really anything we can do about it. It's so bad. It's such an unforced error that by West Ham. There are 3 players at the back post, and none of them dealt with it. And we're having a VAR check. Mikael Antonio just talking to the referee. It has been, I didn't really see anything to suggest we would, of course, to check everything. Even so, it has been awarded, and we're back underway.
Yeah, we are. I mean, I would say maybe if we see another replay from another angle, we might be able to work out what, if anything, VAR could have been questioning about that. It may well be that when that second ball was put in, there could have been a question of offside, but there were so many West Ham players almost back on the line, so I can't really think that would have been the reason.
You mentioned a lunge by Norgard in the build-up. I actually thought it might have been a foul the other way. I thought Souček was the one doing the lunge, so it might have been almost the VAR split the difference. There was 2 fouls and play on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'd like to think that VAR is almost like a robotic analyst of whether it's a foul or not. But as we know from certain revelations by retired referees, it's actually sometimes a bit more than that. Just to say as well, there was a yellow card for Emerson. There was a bit of a strong challenge from him in the build-up to that, and that has now been pulled up as a yellow card, so he's the first player in the book. The ball played back to Flekken, bit of a heavy touch there from Brentford's Dutch keeper, who hasn't made the most auspicious start. There's been quite a few goals that Brentford have conceded where he pretty much has to take that on the chin as his own unforced error or his own personal error, but Brentford made that gamble after David Raya moved on to Arsenal, and in fairness, it's only taken him around a month to become Arsenal's first keeper. But here come West Ham now, trying to respond with Emerson down the left-hand side. He finds Antonio, a bit more of a wide position. He hooks the ball into the penalty area, and it's headed away by Janelt. It's a decent header, because he could have just panicked and headed it out for a corner, but he knew there wasn't too much traffic behind him. Heads it out for a throw.
Yeah, it's good defending, actually, isn't it, by Janelt? Like you say, the easy option was just to nod it behind, but he has thrown it out. Sufal had a couple of decent throw-ins early on. Here he comes again. Yeah,
that's a very good throw as well, and that's flicked on, and Flekken has to come out and dive onto that one. It looks like it was Mavropanos that got his head to that before Antonio was lurking to try and get onto the second ball. As I say, that was a very good throw from Sufal. I would say that he's still probably second or third in the league. I still think Moussa Niakate for Nottingham Forest, he's got a long throw that just flies in like a cross at sort of head height, and very flat as well. So certainly he's been very useful. But Brentford, again, just making a bit of a mess here in playing out from the back. It was an easy ball played to Mark Flekken. He's already had a couple of nervy moments with his feet, so he just boots it out for a throw. This time West Ham take it short, and Ward-Prowse rolling it back towards the halfway line. Pressure here for Ogalbe, and he was caught in possession, just about got enough on the ball to get it away from trouble, and then it almost turned out like a good through ball to Bowen, but a bit of lack of communication between Bowen and Kudus there. They lose possession, and now Onyeka is tearing down the right-hand side here for Brentford, getting towards the West Ham penalty area, just looking for runners, and here is Mbeumo now. He's got 3 players inside the penalty area, just choosing to roll it back now towards Onyeka. And now it's with Bryan Mbeumo. It's got an overlap there as well. Ayer is up there, but that's good work from Emerson. Not only does he win the ball back for Everton, but he actually plays that ball off Ayer, and it is out for a throw. Whereas Brighton have an equaliser at Goodison. It's 1-1. Don't have the goal scorer just yet, but it's 1-1 in that game. And 4 attempts from Brentford with 72% possession, just 28% possession for West Ham, with no efforts on goal. Gets Jack's thoughts on that in a moment, because Brentford are pushing forward now with Maupay. Gets that one in towards Mbeumo. His ball into the box. He was looking with a low cross, trying to find Wissa. It's cleared by Ogalbe, but Brentford come again, and it's a through ball, looking for Mbeumo this time. But Thomas Souček in the right place at the right time gets his foot in. But I suppose after 15 minutes, and West Ham are away from home, they've conceded early as well, so perhaps they won't be too worried about that stat. But if it goes on for much longer with that difference in possession and no efforts, it could become a problem.
Yeah, and they've been poor in possession as well, haven't they, West Ham? There's been a few miscommunications. That's good defending by Soufal as he tackles Wissa. Going to see what you thought about Brentford's defending so far. Flecken doesn't inspire confidence, does he? I think maybe he's got his wrong boots on today, but I always think that Ben Mee's a very good calming influence at the back, but I suppose Ethan Pinnock's another left-sided centre-half, and there is almost a stigma with 2 left-sided centre-halves.
Well, they managed to work all right last season. The problem is that Ben Mee's not really been fit all season. He's had a couple of games in the team, been out the side again. I think if he was fully fit and ready to play, he would get in ahead of... I think potentially he would get in ahead of... Collins, but then Collins has been never present for Brentford this season, so if Mee was fit, they potentially would go back to a 3 to try and get all 3 of those players into the team. West Ham pushing forward though, and there's a bit of space down the right hand side here now for Soufal. Finds Antonio, but again in a wide position. You want Antonio in the box here, really. Needs a bit of support. There was an overlap from Soufal. He goes back towards Ward-Prowse. This is on the right hand edge of the Brentford penalty area. Back towards Antonio, drills a ball in towards Kudus, who controls it, then finds Bowen, and then Bowen plays it across the 6-yard box. The idea was to try and pick out Said Benrahma, but just a little bit too much pace on the pass. But that's probably a little bit better from West Ham. That
was better from West Ham, wasn't it? Just trying to move the Brentford defenders about. It's quite...
Was he going for goal there, actually?
I think he's trying to curl it towards the far corner. He just sees that half a yard, doesn't he, Bowen? It's... resourceful players, which is anything, but I think the odds were against him.
They were. I think I paid him too much of a compliment as saying he was trying to pick out Benrahma, because looking at that replay, he put far too much pace on that. That was never a cross. I think he was definitely going for goal. Brentford again looking under pressure here, and they've lost the ball. It's a goal kick to Brentford. 3 passes later, Christopher Ayer runs into Benrahma, then actually gives the ball away for a throw as well. So this is certainly something that West Ham can try and build on, because the more times it happens, the more nervous the Brentford defenders and goalkeeper are going to get as well.
Yeah, and we mentioned it is still a bit of a makeshift back 4, isn't it, for Brentford? You mentioned as well, they have played with a back 3 at times over the last 18 months. It's still not quite confident. I would have thought that David Moyes would be instructing Mikael Antonio to go old school and get his elbows out a bit, but he seems to be almost playing a bit of a free role, Antonio. He's not getting his back into Collins and making his life difficult.
No, and just to say, things aren't getting easier for Brighton at Goodison, because their goal has been disallowed. It was Lewis Dunk with the goal, but there was an offside in the build-up to that, so it is still 1-0 to Everton in that game, 1-0 to Brentford here, goalless in all the other 3 o'clock kickoffs. Here come West Ham now trying to change. Oh, they certainly do! What a goal that is from Mohammed Kudus! And he runs straight over towards the Brentford. I'm not sure why he does that. He's got the West Ham fans just over to the other side of that goal. But what a strike that is. It was a cross-in from the left-hand side. And Kudus, I'm not sure I'd quite call it a bicycle, a sort of acrobatic flying volley, I think, there from Mohammed Kudus. But a fantastic goal. And West Ham, well, they have been improving in the last 5 minutes, and that is proof of it. A fabulous goal, 1-1.
Yeah, they've been more proactive, the Hammers. Brentford maybe a bit passive. That's a wonderful goal. There's not much you could do about it from a Brentford point of view. Antonio's ball in's a decent one, but it's all about Kudus. He's going away from goal. And, perhaps the goalkeeper should be doing a bit better than we see it again. It's a bicycle kick, isn't it, Paul? But it's not struck exactly cleanly, is it? It's almost he scoops it with the inside of his foot rather than strikes through the ball.
Yeah, I mean, he's almost side-footed it looking at that replay there. But it's, David Moyes is up and applauding. And I tell you what, if this wasn't a 1-1 equaliser, if this was a consolation goal or a friendly match, then most of Brentford, I think, would be applauding that goal as well. It's a fabulous goal from Mohammed Kudus. And as I say, it's a warning to Brentford if they're going to keep messing around. I mean, that passage of play started from a Brentford goal kick and then a throw on to West Ham.
Yeah, you'd expect a bit more control perhaps from the Brentford midfield. And yeah, they were all at 6 and 7 a bit there, weren't they, Brentford? They looked to be in control of the situation. It looked almost, I was mentioning Antonio was floating around because he went wide. That seemed to drag everyone out of position. And didn't quite know who to mark, and Kudus pulled off. I think perhaps Janelt, who you mentioned before, is a bit of a makeshift left back, isn't he? And it's a fabulous finish, but there are areas of improvement, shall we say?
Yes, absolutely. Just as we could have made a few pointers, a few suggestions as to how West Ham could have defended Brentford's goal better. You could certainly say the same about the Brentford defence there. And indeed, Flecken, although I do think that although Kudus doesn't catch it perfectly sweetly, he gets enough of an angle on it, and it's the fact that he's caught it from that sort of position. I think the goalkeeper would be struggling, I think, to get on the end of that.
And as well, we say that the goalkeeper should have done better. We've been at Premier League games, and you don't appreciate how fast the ball moves and how sweetly these guys strike the ball until you're there, until you're behind the post, and fortunately it hits the post rather than you.
Well, it's almost, I mean, goalkeepers have spoken about it, haven't they, that it's almost an instinct that you're almost sort of lunging as the player's striking the ball even before it's left his foot, because you sort of have to try and second guess where the ball's going to go. I mean, it's all happening in a split second. West Ham have won themselves a free kick around 40 yards out, and it's their number 7, James Ward-Prowse, with the ball into the box. Flecken gets caught as he punches that one clear. And the Brentford players aren't happy with this. They feel as though perhaps it's Mavropanos that's clattered into the Brentford keeper, and he seems to have some pain in his left knee.
Well, if we see it again, it's so... It could be... Well, actually, it's so unorthodox by Mavropanos. His left leg is out, but he manages to bring it back in just in time, so he doesn't catch him with his studs, and it's more of a collision rather than a foul in there. It's the right call for it to be a free kick, but it could have been a lot worse from Mavropanos. A bit worried here for Flecken, though, because he seems to be a bit of a bother. They've got Szczerbakowicz on the bench, who's an experienced campaigner, but that was 2 or 3 years ago. He's barely played at Brentford.
He's not played at all, really, since he's joined for Brentford last season. I mean, he had a couple of cup appearances last season. He did play at Old Trafford a few weeks ago after Flecken went down with a stomach bug on the morning of the game. So he got thrown in at the deep end. He made a couple of good saves, but then arguably he could have done a little bit more with both of the late goals from McTominay in that game at Old Trafford. It's going to take a moment now whilst the Beast keeper is checked out. I think you're absolutely right. I think if Mavropanos had that leg out as he clattered into Flecken, then potentially we'd be seeing the purple VAR screen now for potential violent conduct. But because of the way that Mavropanos has been able to tuck that leg in, it's arguable that it was just an accidental clash rather than him actually looking to try and get on the end of it. Well, Flecken is back up on his feet, albeit still hobbling on that left knee. We'll wait and see whether he can play on. In the meantime, we have got a goal at Turf Moor to tell you about, but it's not for the home team. It's Crystal Palace who've taken the lead. Burnley 0, Palace 1, and it's Jeff Schlupp with the goal.
Yeah, it's things just not quite happening for Burnley at the moment. I know Lyle Foster's not going to be back until after the international break, and especially at home, they can't get anything at the moment.
It's been a difficult one. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the documentary on Burnley, the 4 episodes that they've made on Burnley, but it's fascinating to see the sort of the background of the club, the American owners, and just how detailed Vincent Kompany is and how confident he was. He was when they were talking about signing Lyle Foster last season when they were still in the Championship, he was saying, listen, this guy's going to be an £80 million striker in the Premier League one day, so we might as well pay the money for him and get him in now. But it's been a difficult start for the South African forwards so far at Turf Moor. It's been a difficult start for the Brentford defence. They're playing out from the back, and once again they've got themselves into a terrible mess. They've been caught on the right-hand side, and then Christopher Ayer, in trying to win the ball back, has not only given away a free kick, but he becomes the first Brentford man in the book, bringing down the former Brentford man, Saeed Benrahma. He wasn't happy about the challenge there on Collins, but there was nothing wrong with what Antonio did, and it's a free kick to West Ham in a decent position. We're over the halfway point in this first half as well, so I'll hand over to Jack for the remainder of this first half. Yeah,
and Ayer pleads his innocence, clear tug back, and the rules are at them now, aren't they, that you can't do that. It will be a yellow card, so he's going to be careful. They just need 5 minutes of a bit of normality to Brentford. They just seem to be being dragged all over as Ward-Prowse whips the ball in from the left-hand side. It's away well this time by the Bees, and with some good distance, Soufal picks up on the halfway line. He's got Emerson to the left. All the big men have stayed up for West Ham as Soufal goes wide to Benrahma. As Paul mentioned, a former Brentford player. Emerson now goes down the left-hand side, does really well too. Back in the side today after being absent against Everton and providing more thrust, it seems, than Aaron Cresswell. He's won inside a corner kick there, and set pieces have been a worry so far for Brentford.
They have been, yeah. That's you could say that's been a theme since Thomas Frank's been the manager. If you was to see some of the goals Brentford conceded in the Championship under Thomas Frank, you'd say this side aren't very good at set pieces. And fast forward 4 seasons, and not really too much has changed. There seems to be a little bit of a slapdash approach sometimes, but certainly a dangerous in-swinger here from Ward-Prowse could really put the Brentford defence under pressure.
Yeah, maybe we'll use to try and test Flecken after he received that treatment. Plenty of bodies in the 6-yard box. First corner of the game. Decent ball in for us on Mavropanos' head, but Collins did really well to nod it away. Kudus has it wide right. Poor ball in. Doesn't beat the first man. Headed on the edge of the box. Emerson will go all the way back to Alphonse Areola. It was a good start for Brentford, who seems to be benefiting from the rather frantic passage of play that opened the game, but they've gone into the shells a bit as Benrahma whips a decent ball in. Kudus, how's he not scored? Bowen has! Is it going to be an offside? I'm not quite sure. I'll have to see a replay. It came off the thighs, I think, of Kudus onto the post. Was Bowen onside? We'll have to see. Worryingly for Brentford, yes, he's scored, but he had all the time in the world to do it.
Yeah, it's just like without even too much effort here, it seems West Ham have just completely got Brentford to implode on themselves. It seems like since Brentford scored the goal, West Ham have stepped it up a little bit, and the Brentford defence has just crumbled. I mean, when this ball... I'm not sure if there's going to be any offside to save Brentford there. It's a ball whipped in by Benrahma. It's off the thigh of Kudus onto the post. And there is Jarrod Bowen to finish from close range, albeit from a tight angle. But we'll see in a moment if they're even going to show us one of those touchline side-on replays. They haven't yet so far, so that suggests to me there probably is no offside here. And West Ham have turned it around in 5 minutes.
We just discussed how Brentford defend balls into the box. If they carry on doing it like they are, it could be 4-1 by half time. There's no one picking anybody up.
No, there isn't. Well, we aren't restarting play just yet, so potentially there is going to be a quick offside check. I say quick offside check, that's me being hopeful, of course. Our VAR, a possible handball then is what the VAR screen is saying here at the Gtech. So I'm assuming that can't be Bowen himself. Is that Kudus when he's trying to knee that one into the net, maybe?
I'm not too sure, because we didn't get so many angles, but it was point of where Jarrod Bowen seemed quite, not in a footballer way, seemed quite surprised, but he seemed having a look. Was he chest it onto his arm, perhaps?
Has he chested it onto his arm? Has he made his chest and his body bigger by having that arm there to then help him control the ball? I mean, we know that even in the short few years we've had VAR in the Premier League, the what counts as a handball and not, and deliberate and accidental and deflections, etc. It's changed a few times in those few years. But this, I get the feeling that we're going to see these freeze frames quite a few times before VAR makes its mind up here.
Well, and the thing is, and when you look at the angle, because he leans forward, it might look like he's hit his arm, but is his chest in front of his arm? I was hoping you'd give us a clear run-through of the rules there, Paul, but I think, like you say, it changes so often. For me, he chests it down almost onto his thigh, but because his arm's there, does it hit his arm? I'm not quite sure. I think it's one of those that whatever side your sympathies may lie on, you'd feel agreed. Yeah,
I think so. And what's interesting to me is, why is the referee not seeing this himself? I mean, is it going to be given as an offside without the referee even looking at it, or is it a case that the VAR have checked it and they're quite happy to say that it's not an offside? The referee has now got his earpiece. He's checking, but I think it's going to be given as a goal.
Yeah, it looks like it has been delight for Bowen, whose fine start to the season continues. It was a fine start to the game for Brentford, but they just have really capitulated somewhat in the last 10 minutes. A long way to go, though. Bowen, like Kudus, scored against Arsenal in the week, so he's found a bit of form. They will pour the hammers against Everton. I think finding a way to get Kudus and Bowen into the side is going to be the key to West Ham's season. It's almost like Antonio's playing deeper with Bowen right through the middle this afternoon. Maupay, Brentford's goal scorer, has given away a free kick. So the goal stands. So it's still Brentford 1, West Ham 2. Crystal Palace leading at Burnley 1-0. Everton 1 to the good against Brighton. Goalless between Sheffield United and Wolves. We might have an update on the Manchester City Bournemouth game in a few seconds, as Antonio loses out this time. Ward-Prowse, Souček hooks it on and hammered into the air by Pinnock, 29.5 gone. It's an independent off-tube studio commentary. It's been great fun this game so far as Mavropanos plays it back to Areola, out towards Soufal. He nods it on. Pinnock has too much for Antonio, and Jensen, nice ball with the outside his right boot into Janelt, and Brentford come again. Maupay's ball's not the best, and Mavropanos, it wasn't a great clearance either. Rather than put his foot for it, he tried to play it out for a throw, and Jensen read it, couldn't quite control his attempted effort into the side net.
Yeah, I'm a bit disappointed with Jensen. I mean, it is a mistake from Mavropanos, but then I thought, maybe I'm being a bit harsh there on Jensen, I thought he could have maybe just taken one step less towards that ball and tried to fire it before he was going to be running out of play and into the side netting, because it seemed pretty obvious to me that he was. It sounds like the expected first goal at the Etihad, Jack.
Yeah, Jeremy Doku by the looks of it as Areola restarts, headed well by Ayer. Ward-Prowse, no Edson Alvarez today, so perhaps he's playing a bit deeper. Ward-Prowse as Mbumo has it for Brentford. Had a bit of a zip on it, but nothing that was going to unduly worry Alphonse Areola, who was happy to let the ball trundle past his right hand upright. They're struggling to get their attacking wide men, especially into the game at the moment. Brentford as Areola prepares to restart the game. Stuns the ball low and flat towards Antonio, who does exactly the same, looking to find Benrahma. Unfortunately for West Ham, though, that means he goes out for a goal kick.
Well, I'm not sure there's a footballer who's ever played in the Premier League who would have got on the end of that. I mean, that was very much overhit. And say Benrahma probably just looks at that and goes, well, you wouldn't be able to catch that, mate, so I don't know why you're passing that to me that way. But it just goes to show you that had Antonio got that pass right, then it would have been a low drill pass from Areola, then a quick ball down the line from Antonio when Benrahma could have been in at the edge of the area.
Yes, Norgard, that's a good ball wide to Janelt. Comes forward, then backwards to Jensen. Jensen again, can just turn and give it to Norgard, who looks up and strokes to Ayer. Collins, the Irish international, just inside his own half. The Bees are going right to left in the first half as we look at it. Independent off-tube studio commentary. Brentford 1, West Ham 2 in their usual red and white striped shirts, black shorts, black socks, chain strip for West Ham. Of all blue, Brentford have it. The game's just kind of having a bit of a deep breath, maybe for a plunge as we head towards half times. But Pinnock angles it forward to Janelt. That's a good ball by him, but Mavropanos read it. It will be a throw to Brentford, though. Janelt shapes to take it, but Jensen scampers across. My ball, he says, and he'll fancy perhaps winding up for a long throw towards the near post. Given the big build-up, and there's no options for that long throw, really. Eventually, he does take a few steps back. And with it, probably about 20 seconds out of the first half as well. He eventually winds up, decent delivery towards the near post. It's away by Bowen, who made it back. Benrahma's onto this, and so is fortunate for Brentford. I think it's Frank Onyeka who got back, because we questioned the defensive organisation. They had nobody. If Benrahma's onto it, he's clean through on goal with 70 yards in front of him.
Yeah, well, you see, this is the thing. People pay Thomas Frank a lot of respect for the fact that he's got Brentford playing in a certain way and perhaps not spending huge money. They have got a decent, they've got very good results over the past 2 seasons. But you have to say that if you look back to Brentford's promotional season in the Championship, they conceded a goal like this in the playoff semi-finals. They had a corner kick, the ball got played up to the halfway line, and then Danjuma just ran the half of the length of the pitch and tucked it into the back of the net. And that wasn't too far away from happening again there. Brentford do commit too many players further forward. I mean, Onyeka wasn't really taking part in the attack, so he may as well just have stayed on the halfway line anyway. It just seemed like whoever it was that was supposed to be the last man was pushing way too far forward anyway.
Yeah, it's one of those moments where you hesitate because you expect a defender to come through and nothing. Manchester City have got a second. They lead 2-0. Bernardo Silva, the goal scorer. You worry for Bournemouth at the Etihad, I think, as West Ham just try and work their way out of trouble. No passes are really going to feet in the attacking third now for Brentford. Soufal has it for the Hammers. Kudus knocks it back to Mavropanos. No Kurt Zuma this afternoon. He's injured. Edson Alvarez suspended, as is Lucas Paquetá for the Hammers. But they're doing all right at the moment, leading 2-1, having been 1-0 down to Neal Maupay's goal. Mbeumo does really well, comes inside, he's fouled by Antonio, who's had a couple of goes now. As the Cameroon international is suggesting to the ref, but he looks like a pretty cool customer, Tom Bramall.
Yes, well, of course, with, as I say, Gary made the point that it seems that every time a Premier League refs one of their games, they get demoted. Anthony Taylor is in the Championship this weekend for his horror show with Wolves last week. I mean, I have to say, there's hardly any contact there from Antonio. And he was actually saying I can actually lip read say that's no card, and the referee agreed, and I think it's the right decision. There's minimal contact, and then there's a bit of a trip as Mbeumo's legs sort of clipped themselves. Really.
And I think as well, the West Ham player came across and just ran across the ball rather than played it, avoiding contact with the Brentford falling players. That probably helped Antonio out, so he didn't look as bad as it could have done. Mbeumo will take the free kick wide on the right hand side. In fact, Jensen now outswinger. Mavropanos is up there, he heads it behind himself. Oh, Wissa with the overhead kick. And well, West Ham are making the point where it goes out off Soufal, but Soufal, I think, making the point is saying, well, I can't go for it because I know I'm going to get kicked in the head. It's a high foot.
I think that there's an argument to say there that should be given as a free kick to West Ham. I think that...
well, Mavropanos has gone for it, actually, hasn't it? It should be a high foot.
Yeah, I mean, he's headed that back, but as you say, he can't head it forward because if he nods the ball forward, then he's going to get... a bootful in the face, so I think the referee potentially could have given West Ham a free kick there, but Brentford will take this corner kick and it's going to be Jensen with the in-swinger.
Yeah, one of those, I think human instinct took over there for the Greek defender as Jensen whips a ball. It's a free header for Brentford. We've questioned their defending at set pieces. West Ham aren't much better, but Norgard's effort is wide. It was a run towards the near post, perhaps hoping to get a touch at the far one, but no one quite anticipated. Or you see the replay again. Must be a set move because Wissa was almost there at the back post, unmarked as well.
Just getting away from Wissa as well, and that was the frustration for Norgard. He felt as though that was a header on to a teammate and nobody was able to get on the end of it, but West Ham, they play out from the back, but it's cleared long straight away by goalkeeper Areola. It does go out for a throw, and that's a throw to West Ham. It's just not sticking for Brentford in midfield right now.
Yeah, it was interesting, that goal kick as well, where they played it to Areola, who played it straight away because Brentford players came onto him, whereas Brentford seemed to do that but then go wide to the fullbacks. That invites the pressure. This maybe not quite direct enough as Kudus controls 30 yards out, right centre, onto his left foot. He'll look to find Benrahma. It's not the greatest ball. It's cut out by the retreating Onyeka, who gets it back as well via Wissa. Onyeka, good ball into Mbeumo, wide on the right hand side. He comes forward, cuts inside. He's still always happy to carry the ball, and then finds a good one as well, wide to Janelt, who's got time to control. He'll go back inside to Jensen, 30 yards or so from the West Ham goal. Brentford going right to left as we look at it. Independent Optube Studio commentary. Jensen was in space if Maupay had seen him, but no, he went back to Norgard, who's instead got plenty of time himself. Ayer back to Mbeumo. Now Ayer, and it's just slowed down. That initial momentum that Brentford had in that move, they were a bit slow and just allow West Ham to get bodies behind the ball, all 11 of them in fact.
It's almost as if West Ham have got a cheat sheet of what Brentford are trying to do here, because they just seem to be in the right position. Brentford, I agree that Brentford have got quite pedestrian now in the last sort of 15 minutes. Ever since they scored, really, they seem to have taken their foot off the gas, and that's just allowed West Ham to grow. But here come Brentford again now.
Yes, as Norgard man goes down. Not quite sure, no free kick given, but Janelt does well, just tries to prod it through. Then Ayer nods it on. In fact, Collins and Mbeumo has it. 3-0 now, Manchester City. Doku with his second. He's also got the assist with Bernardo, strikers. And Mbeumo's low ball then is easily away by Ward-Prowse, and Bowen will find Kudus in plenty of time and space. Equaliser for Kudus. Bowen putting West Ham ahead after Maupay had opened the scoring. But you mentioned a cheat sheet, perhaps, Paul. There have been a few occasions where West Ham have clearly worked out Brentford what they're going to do from goal kicks. There was also a moment where they just allowed Norgard to come onto it, and they had 5 players round him blocking all the passes, so he had to carry it and then had to go backwards as Benrahma edge of the area is Kudus. He's got Soufal on the overlap. Ball's behind him, but he still manufactures a cross. He doesn't quite find a teammate. Good covering back by Norgard. Jensen is taken out by the Dane. Soufal urges his innocence. Jensen looks unhappy. Maupay's asking for a foul up the other end. He's got plenty to think about as the ref.
I'm not having that. I think Maupay's turning Mavropanos and just rolls and hits the deck. I don't think that's a free kick for me. On the other hand, where Jensen was trying to play out for the back and he just got clipped there by Soufal, I think that was a free kick. But it may well be as you say, it may well be that West Ham don't need a cheat sheet from Brentford. It may well be that the bees, for the most part, in terms of how they're playing out from the back, have been really very, very predictable.
Yes, as Emerson back to Agard, he'll knock it long. Both of those incidents were old school play, weren't they? Maupay trying to use his body to win the free kick, and Soufal perhaps running across the ankles of Jensen and pleading his innocence as Agard, long ball to Kudus, who gets in ahead of Janelt. That should not be happening. Kudus, central position, he's got Bowen to his right hand side, who'll use Bowen as well. Bowen across the 6-yard box. Oh, was it a great bit of defending or was it poor finishing? I think it's a bit of both, actually, Paul. Somehow it's not 3-1.
I think what's happened here is that Mikael Antonio has just stopped a former Brentford player from scoring at the Gtech there. It could have been Ben Rama's goal, but it looks to me as though he's been robbed of the ball by Antonio. Let's see, it's Bowen's ball across. And it's Ben Rama's waiting to tap it in, and Antonio perhaps not realising that Ben Rama's in a better position. He's sort of scrambling to get to it, and but even so, Antonio shouldn't be missing from that close.
I think that's poor play by Antonio. Whether he has or hasn't, he should be scoring. Either way, he should be leaving that one because he should be able to see Ben Rama's going to just pass that ball into the net. Will West Ham rue that as we head towards half-time? Jensen, 30 yards or so out from West Ham's goal. Janelt's wide. He's got it on the left-hand side. Chance to use that nice left foot. No, he doesn't beat the first man. He'll come out to Janelt, who has Jensen again. He lets the ball roll across his body so he can use his right boot. Rolled pass in towards Mbumu, who's come looking for work on the left-hand side. Whistler's around there as well, so they do have bodies. Jensen, now Norgard back to Jensen. Jensen then digs out across. It's deep. It's over everyone really. Emerson's got the ball under control. And we'll let it go out for a throw. Just one pass too many every time for Brentford at the moment.
Yeah, it's not working out for Brentford in this game so far. You have to say that West Ham, for all their organisation and for the sort of spring in the step that they have, it's also making West Ham look better because Brentford looks so ordinary that they just look very slow and lethargic playing out from the back, and as you say, just lacking that little bit of quality going forward. But West Ham here from their own throw have just lost the ball.
Yes, they have, and Jensen has it in a central position again. He just takes one touch too many, and Boomer, though, wide on the right-hand side. It's a deflected ball into the box. It will go for a corner kick. Yeah, that's something I've certainly noticed in the last 10 minutes. West Ham, it just seems to be one touch every time when they're going forward, whereas maybe it's a bit more pedestrian from Brentford. Is that a lack of confidence? I don't know. The results have been good.
The results have been good over the last few weeks, and I don't know. I think we have to give credit to West Ham for their sort of urgency. It's just meant that it's possibly just forced Brentford into a few more errors, into being a little bit more edgy as they take this corner kick short.
Yeah, they do to Janelt. Left-footed ball, then it's away by Agard. Norgard beats Kudus on the edge of the box. Bowen picks up the seconds there. Now Kudus will pretty calmly just move the ball on, and Soufal plays for territory as Collins got back and sweeps up back to Flecken, who's been relatively untested by that Antonio miss in the last 10 or so minutes. Pinnock just holds off and shows what a good player he is to just pirouette round at Kudus, who had fouled him, and it will be a free kick to Brentford, and they'll calmly go backwards to try and go forwards, but you can see West Ham are kind of shutting off Flecken's angles. It's quite a deliberate ploy. Pinnock now has it.
Well, what's going to happen now is I can't imagine any team in the Premier League going to give any time to Mark Flecken when he's playing out from the back. They can see that he's nervous. They can see that he's also not that great when coming out for crosses and that kind of thing. I mean, every Premier League club will have one or two scouts whose job it is just to pick out stuff like that, let alone the coaches, let alone the players who, of course, can watch all the games themselves anyway. So that's something that Flecken has to work on because it's not going to get any easier for him.
Yeah, I think as well, I've talked about the full-backs. Neither of them are naturally in that position, so they'll naturally turn back inside, won't they, rather than go down the line, which is, again, easy to defend, isn't it? It makes the pitch very narrow at times for Brentford. Jensen, edge of the box. That's a nice ball wide to Janelt. His ball in isn't so good. He was just trying to slide it side-footed. towards a collie, but Kudus and Soufal between them have given it away. Jensen gives it to Maupay. He turns in the box. He goes back to goal. It's back to Norgard, who kind of lunges at it in desperation. Again, there's a loose challenge by Jensen on Kudus. And Jensen can complain all he wants, but he's played for the last 3 seasons in the Premier League, or there or thereabouts, and he should know that free kick's coming every day of the week.
It is. I mean, and he would be furious if that happened to one of his teammates and he didn't get a free kick. So it's the usual sort of footballer's attitude that it's a disgrace when the decision's gone against me, but if you do that to me, I expect a free kick every time. And yeah, I mean, there's no way. He's late. Kudus gets there first, plays it up in the air. Of course, the little jump and the sort of the groan from Kudus is a little bit for effect, but it doesn't change the fact that it was a clear foul.
Yeah, it's that one where you just want the referee to say, did you get the ball? No. Well, it's free kick then, isn't it?
So, yeah, there's no two ways about it. But I mean, it's just more evidence of how sort of just disappointing this first half has been for Brentford. After it started so well, West Ham was certainly finishing strongly. They're on the attack again.
Yeah, down the right hand side with Antonio. He gets the byline as well. Pinnock though does it once again very, very well. Janelt couldn't quite control the pass, but he has it again. They'll play their way out of trouble, perhaps. No, they'll play their way back into it. 7 minutes of added on time as Kudus ball comes in, headed away by Collins at the near post. Great defending by the Irishman. Still a way
7
to go.
minutes. I mean, I suppose with 2 or 3 minutes that would have been Flecken on his own. We've had a VAR check. But even so, I mean, I would have had it more down at the sort of 4 or 5 minute mark. I think 7 might just be a little bit excessive. But if anything, this is probably good news for West Ham because they've still got Brentford on the ropes here.
Yeah, but it is Brentford coming forward as Onyeka has it. Central position. He'll think about going for goal, perhaps. No, teases it towards the back post. Soufal is there. Ward Prowse just chips it over the top towards Benrahma, but Boumode as well. Going backwards. And we're thinking what might have been. Antonio's letting him pass into the goal. That would have made it 3-1, perhaps unassailable as well. But as it is, Brentford maybe growing in confidence as Mbeumo, for me, runs into Emerson. And it's going to be a free kick, though. He did have a hint of, well, Emerson's kind of, he's not complaining, is he? But he just had a hint of maybe a forward didn't have any options there.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. That one almost always goes the way of the attacking player. It's almost like he's played the ball through your legs and then he runs into you. Well, no professional footballer, Emerson can't jump out of the way of that because then his own teammates are going to be absolutely furious. So he's got to stand his ground, but then as soon as he does that, he's obstructing Mbeumo, so it's almost like he's got no choice.
And that's the thing, he's almost half anticipated on the turn there, but even so, I suppose his obstruction is because he's in the way of the player who's on the attack. It will be the Brentford man to take the free kick. Pinnock's up. So is Whistler. They go short again. They're setting up on Mbeumo. Oh! You expected the net to bulge. I think so did he. It was such a well-worked free kick. West Ham had switched off wide over the upright, though.
Yeah, it's just gone wide. I mean, Mbeumo got a goal from a very similar position a few weeks ago, although that wasn't from a free kick, that was from open play. But that was a really good strike there from Mbeumo. It just went wide. It was the game against Burnley where he hit the top corner. On this occasion, it's curling, but it wasn't. I was going to say it wasn't curling enough, but it actually had a little bit more zip to it just towards the end. But it was still just a little bit too wide.
Really clever play there by Brentford. It was a difficult angle for the free kick. You had to cross it in, but they made the angle into almost a perfect one for a left footer running in on the ball to shoot towards goal. And plenty of action on it as well as Onyeka. He's had a good first half. He'll work it to Mbeumo. Again, pretty much carbon copy. Goes for goal! He's been practicing that one, Paul, but once again can't find the target. Another goal kick.
Well, he's your classic left footer playing on the right, so that is his domain. It's what Coutinho used to do for Liverpool, starting on the left and hitting it with his right into the top corner. Mbeumo doing it from the other side, and I just want to see from this reverse angle. It felt to me as though this was closer. In fact, both were very close. It's probably less than a yard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a good effort again. I think the goalkeeper, the way he's moving, feels that he has got the situation under control. 48.5 gone, still 3.5 of the added on 7. As Pinnock will roll it into Collins and wide to Ayer. One of those on a yellow card. Emerson also in that situation for West Ham. Jensen drops deep, looks up, then goes backwards. Ayer back to Collins, and Pinnock will look to open the play over the halfway line. He's got Janelt on the left-hand side, and space to move into as well for the German. Towards the back post, headed away by Emerson. Souček on the edge of the box will I was going to say complete the clearance, but he's headed it back to Brentford, who themselves headed back into the area. Again, hooks it away. Benrahma's got the wrong side of Ayer, of course, on a yellow card, but he does very, very well, does the Norwegian.
He felt as though he might have been fouled. I think Tom Bramwell's saying that Brentford are just going to be allowed to play on because they've still got the ball, which probably would be better for them to do rather than having a free kick inside their own half. But yeah, I mean, that's always going to be a risk for Ayer. He's up against two quick players, Emerson and particularly and Benrahma down that flank. So if he gets caught out, he's just going to have to forget about it, because if he does bring them down, it could be a second yellow.
Yeah, and Mbumu. Nice ball inside to Norgard, who finds Onyeka. Can he find the finish on Onyeka? A couple of ricochets out for a corner kick. Certainly signs that Brentford, after that really poor patch, perhaps the better side as we head towards the break.
Yeah, they're starting to show a little bit of, they're starting to play a little bit more like a home team, and those earlier attacks where there always seemed to be one pass too many, they just seem to be getting it right now. But corner kick hit to be taken by Mbumo.
Yeah, Pinnock and Collins at the back post, and Mbumo to take the set piece. Seems to be a bit of hesitation. It's worth mentioning as well, it's absolutely hammering down in West London, so that's not making life easy. I think there might be a few fresh shirts at half time as Mbumo prepares to whip it in towards the 6-yard box. It's not the best, and again, I think Brentford may have won the first ball, but no really anticipating the second, as Kudus will bring it over halfway. Wants to go inside his left foot. Wisser knows it as well, just to show him back towards his own goal. Now Ward-Prowse, he's got Benrahma to his left, he's also got Emerson there too. Ward-Prowse will sweep it wide to Mavropanos, who again, he does take risks with the ball, you have to say, the Greek international. This time finds Soufal. Soufal floats it forward. Collins maybe could have let it go to the goalkeeper, but safety first. Then Janelt into Jensen. Jensen's ball round the corners, a good one. Maupay controls. He seems to have gone further wide. Onyeka now wide on the left-hand side. Maupay has it. Square ball into Ayer. Wide to Mbumo. Obviously wanting to get him in the game as much as possible, Brentford. Now Jensen seems to slow it down a bit, but then Norgard wide to Ayer. Cross comes in at the back post is Onyeka. A couple of deflections later meant he couldn't get his bicycle kick off. Pinnock, Jensen, Brentford dinked wide to Janelt. Janelt will fizz it across the field. Oh, I was just about to scream 2-2 as Wisser Mbumo came off the back post. Oh my, on the spin, searching for the far corner, and he can't find it.
Well, 10 minutes ago, if you'd have said to me that Brentford would be 3-1 down at half-time, I think they probably deserve to be 3-1 down. Now, after the last few passages of play, I think Brentford can feel themselves unlucky not to be level, and Mbumo's been so close with those left-footed efforts from the right-hand side. That was the closest of all, but that looks like half-time. It's 2-1 to West Ham. Myself and Jack will be back for you in 15 minutes.